He's always got the time.
Is that because of his... I can't say that.
He's got a watch. Have you seen the size of his watch?
Into his watch. It's a great watch, but he's always got the time.
It's an Olympic year, which means we need an Olympic guest. And who better to call upon than someone who's been to the past 3 games in a row. This guest has jumped further than any woman in this country's history. Just let that sink in. I'm looking forward to learning all about Australia's finest long jumper, Brooke Buschkuehl. Brooke, thanks very much for jumping on the pod. It's the first time I'm diving into the athletics side of the world, so really looking forward to a chat.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're about a month post-Paris, so we may as well start right there with the Olympics. It was your 3rd Games. Where did it rank as a spectacle and event to be a part of?
I think in terms of, event to be a part of, it was probably the most enjoyable out of the 3 games. The competition didn't go as well as I would have liked. It's been a pretty tough year, but the atmosphere in the stadium was absolutely incredible. I guess like going back to Tokyo, not having a crowd and people in the stadium cheering for you, I think it really made Paris that little bit more special, especially when you have friends and family in the crowd as well watching. So I think as a whole, it was a really enjoyable games to be a part of.
Tokyo must have been insane.
It was different, yeah. I think it was nice in a sense that we weren't able to leave the village, so it really brought a lot of us Aussie athletes closer, and a lot of us just stayed within the Australian team building. So it was really good vibes around the Australian building. So it was very enjoyable, but I think not being able to share the Olympic experience with family and friends, and I guess, just have spectators in the crowd. It was different. And then along with all the COVID protocols and rules and regulations, it was definitely a games that I won't forget, for just being so unique.
Did you have much support go over to Paris with you?
I had a bit of support. So obviously my dad's my coach, so he travels to most competitions with me. So he was over in Paris. My mum came over, my husband Nath, and then my brother Jamie and his wife Beck. So I had a bit of support there. My sister plays AFLW, so she couldn't really get time off pre-season training, and not really sure why my younger brother didn't come. But anyway, so to have those, key people in the crowd, it was pretty special.
I can assume there'd be some fors and against having your dad as your coach. What's the dynamic like in that relationship?
Yeah, it works really well for us. Like, there's obviously pros and cons to it. But I feel like we've been able to achieve some pretty incredible things as a team. And we really make sure that we're able to separate, home and family life from athlete and coach life. So I think it's really just about, being able to put on the right hat in, particular scenarios and I guess different circumstances. And I feel like, we both respect each other a lot, and just able to make it work. And I think now that I'm out of home, there's not so much, talk about athletics around the dinner table, and I feel like there's definitely more of a separation. So it's been incredible, and to be able to ride all the highs and lows with my dad, it's been really cool, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Can you take us now straight to the event? We may as well start with where it all happened. It's a long way to go for 3 jumps. It's like so much pressure on those moments. How are you feeling in the hours or the night before that moment? Because it all comes down to that.
Pretty stressed. I feel like as I'm getting older, the competitions mean more to me. I feel like I'm definitely having to sacrifice a lot more and make, choices that aren't as easy as they used to be when I was a little bit younger. So, I think as well, just having my own expectations, which I've really tried to, I guess, improve upon, just sort of lower those expectations a little bit and really just try and enjoy my athletics for what it is. But I think obviously nerves are normal, just trying to make sure that they're not out of control, and just, I think for me, just making sure that I'm doing enough to distract my mind from overthinking every possible scenario that could happen out there. So yeah, just nerves are normal, nerves are going to happen, but for me, yeah, I think I just try not to get myself too worked up before a competition.
So the day of the Olympics, I think it would have been morning in Paris time because it was at a reasonable hour in Melbourne time. So you wake up, what's the routine like heading into that?
Yeah, so I think my competition was about 11 a.m. So yeah, had a little bit of a sleep in, went downstairs, got a coffee, had breakfast, and then basically went up, got changed, and headed out to the track. The track was pretty close to the village, which was good, so it meant that I didn't have to get up too early on competition day. But yeah, just tried to stay really composed and relaxed. And I guess for me, you know, I have put a lot of pressure on myself to perform at major championships in the past, and I think just in general, but these games I really just wanted to enjoy the whole experience and just really soak it in. So yeah, just tried to stay calm and as relaxed as possible the morning before I competed.
After each jump, you obviously go and you talk to your dad, and I'm not sure what's said, but you did look calm between each of those jumps. What is said in those moments?
My coach probably told me just to jump further. Yeah, I think
Pretty simple.
keeping it simple. But I think there were a few issues with my run up on the day. You know, I think there was a little bit of overstriding, some jumps, you know, a little bit close to the board, but I wasn't exactly touching the board either. A lot of the jumps I was taking off and losing quite a bit of distance on my takeoff. But, I think the key messages my coach was giving me was just to enjoy the experience. I think we both knew that it was going to be a big ask to pull something out that I have been capable of jumping in the past, just given, how much I've struggled this year. So, it was really just about enjoyment. And although I was quite disappointed with the result, and there's no worse feeling than hopping out of the sandpit and, a distance is put up on the board that you're not very happy with. But I think, I almost prepared myself for that result, and I think everyone around me I think they knew it was coming, but we all just tried to stay positive, and, I did everything in my power to get myself up for Paris. But, I think given the result, I think, it wasn't all that bad.
I watched a lot of the Olympics, and three things really stressed me out. Watching the divers and worrying that they're going to hit their head when they come down on the board.
Yeah.
Watching the swimming and the relays, hoping that they don't jump too early before they tap.
Yeah.
And watching the long jump
Yeah.
and seeing the toes like millimeters off that line.
Yeah.
How much preparation, obviously you've been doing it your whole life, but do you ever go over, like how close do you get?
It definitely varies from competition to competition. A lot of training is done around my run up, but there's so many factors that come into play on a competition day. Even at training, what surface you're training on, whether the track's wet or dry, which direction the wind's going in, like whether you've tapered for a training session or competition. It all really depends on, as well how you're feeling on the day. So your running can change so much from session to session. And I think on the day of a competition, you really just have to be mindful of all these factors and adjust your run up accordingly. So a lot of work is done on the run up. I tend to be pretty good in terms of where I take off from, but I think just getting that consistency from run up to run up is something that's really focused on in training.
So post-event, from the moment you've competed to then, I guess, departing the Olympic Village, and what's it like from there?
I think because I didn't compete so well, it definitely put a bit of a dampener on my Olympic experience. That's just an honest statement, but I really enjoyed the rest of my time at the Olympics. Went and watched the women's long jump final, made the most of, I guess, spending time with other athletes in the village. I spent some time with friends and family as well that were over there. But just really tried to soak up the whole atmosphere, and being in the village is a pretty cool thing. Not too many people get to experience it. So when there's free food, free coffee, vending machines where you can just get whatever you want, it's something that you can't turn down. And it's just a completely different lifestyle you live being in a village. But I've tried to get out. When I saw the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, like you name it, just had a great time. And I'm really glad that I didn't feel that disappointment for too long after the event. I really tried to snap myself out of that negative mindset and just be able to move on pretty quickly.
You talk about some of the benefits, the vending machines, like what exactly is at your disposal?
Anything you can think of, really. It's pretty cool. The dining hall, every option under the sun, really, you can think of. The chocolate muffins. I personally didn't get to try one because I'm celiac and I can't have gluten. But I think that, gymnasium, you can hire bikes, you can catch buggies around. The Australian team building had their own gym. They had a like a snack bar downstairs. They had a coffee, like a barista there, coffee cart. You name it, they had it.
I saw one nation, because all the nations had different setups, I believe. One nation you could literally print a photo onto your coffee. And
yes.
Did you see any of them?
Yes. So I didn't actually do it, but I think it was the Costa coffee. You could get any photo printed on a coffee, which was, pretty crazy.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So what were the rooms like? Because that was the other talking point. You've got all of this incredible facility downstairs for the athletes, and then the sleeping arrangements probably aren't ideal. Can you talk us through your setup personally?
Yeah, so every level has apartments, essentially. So we had an apartment with 4 bedrooms. So there was 8 of us athletes, 2 athletes to a bedroom. A couple of cardboard beds in each bedroom, which really aren't that bad. Before we actually got a mattress topper to put on the bed, I was pretty concerned based on how hard the mattress was. But I actually slept really well on those beds. Didn't collapse. It was pretty sturdy. And then, just had like a pretty big common area with a balcony. So plenty of space. Had a fridge. A couple of bathrooms. So, pretty spacious, to be honest.
Not quite as bad as it's made out to be.
No, not bad at all. I was on level 10, which I'm pretty sure was the top level, and I feel like we had a bit of a penthouse, so it was pretty cool.
And do you choose your roommates, or are you just thrown in?
We can write down some roommate options, but it tends to sometimes be a little bit random. So I think sometimes who you put down, you may not necessarily end up with. I think sometimes it also is based around when your competition is, what wave you leave our team camp in as well, because they generally have 1 or 2 waves depending on what part of the program you're in. So,
Sounds a bit like school camp.
A little bit. Pretty similar.
And is there much mingling with the other athletes and celebrating other athletes' successes? I've seen one video of someone has won a medal and everyone's out on the balconies screaming as they walk through. How's the atmosphere? Yeah,
it's pretty much exactly that. So it's very interesting, though, because so many athletes just come and go, based on when their event is and whether they've got a competition or not, or if they're out seeing family or friends. So everyone just does their own thing, really, based on, I guess, what they've got on that given day. So not everyone is really in the team building at the one time, but everyone gets around each other. A lot of athletes will sit downstairs and we'll spend time mingling with other athletes. If an athlete does come back with a medal, everyone will get around them. They'll celebrate the athlete. So it's really cool to be a part of that and just see that there's so much support from athletes that don't even know other athletes as well. It's just, really cool vibes.
All right, let's pull back a bit, because obviously it's such a long journey to get to the Olympics. I've got no doubt you were naturally a very good jumper when you were younger, but at what point do you think, all right, I want to do this as a profession? I want to be the best jumper in the world.
It was probably from quite a young age. I mean, I started little athletics when I was 5. By grade 1, I had been setting some records down at the Nunawading Little Athletics Club in the long jump. I then watched Kathy Freeman win the gold medal for Australia at the Sydney 2000 Olympics just at home on the TV. And that was really the moment where I think that passion for athletics was really ignited, and I just had this real desire to want to put on the green and gold one day. And although I was so young at that point in time, I always had this real internal motivation to want to be the best athlete that I could be. So I think it's hard to come by young kids that do have that real drive and that commitment to a sport, and I feel like I was definitely one of those kids. And I think that's why my dad also took me on as my coach, because he could see that I had some pretty raw talent and wanted to see me in the sport for the long haul. He knew nothing about long jump at this point in time, and I think it was just more so a protective thing. And I'm really grateful for that decision, because I think if I was pushed too young and too early on, maybe I wouldn't be here today having achieved everything I'd achieved. But I think probably early on, I realised that I had the potential to represent Australia at some point down the track. I made my first state championships in under 9s through Little Athletics, and then in the under 10 age group made it to nationals. And then when I was 15, turning 16, I think, I made the World Youth Championships. So that was probably the first stepping stone towards, getting to that Olympic level, starting at, a world under 18 level, then progressing to world under 20s. And I think once you're sort of in that realm, it's not too big of a jump to then progress, I guess, into the senior international ranks. So I reckon maybe once I was, 15, I had a pretty good feeling about, what was to come.
Doubling back to Kathy Freeman, have you had the chance to meet her at all?
I have had the chance to meet her. So I won a scholarship actually back in, I think it was 2011, a Sports Australia Hall of Fame scholarship. And I actually was assigned her to be my mentor for a year. So that was an incredible experience, like someone I'd looked up to since I was in grade 1, as I said. And then, to be able to have, multiple catch-ups with her and hear her story and get some advice from her around, how she dealt with a few of the things that I, needed advice on at that point in time. So that was a really cool thing, and I was definitely starstruck by her.
Yeah, awesome. And then as a high school student, you're going through this process of becoming one of the best jumpers in the country. How much time are you dedicating to that and to practicing, to training, as opposed to school? Is there a balance?
I tried to have a balance there, but I do think that athletics was more of a priority. I don't think I would have achieved what I did achieve in athletics if I didn't prioritize it to the point that I did during, my VCE and Year 12 studies. So I'm really grateful that I did make that choice. And, I still went on to complete a university degree, and I think the balance that I had was a nice balance. And thankfully, the training that I was doing when I was in Year 11, Year 12 wasn't too crazy. I mean, being a long jumper, you're down at the track a few days a week, a couple of days in the gym, any other odd appointments here or there. So I feel like there was definitely more I could have been doing at that point in time, but I think being able to have that nice balance between, having time to train, but then also putting time into my studies and getting homework done. But I probably could have done more in that space and been a little bit more productive with my time. But I think how I did it was how I wanted to do it.
what does a training session at the track look like? I'm certainly not an expert in jumping. I was terrible in school aths, but is it as simple as you just running and jumping, or what's it actually consist of?
So I do obviously different sessions. I don't jump every single session. I only really jump once a week, which a lot of people are surprised about. So a jump session typically involves, obviously, like I'll do a warm up and get into some drills and run throughs before I start my session. We'll do some short approach takeoffs, then progress to some run ups, and then finish off with some short approach jumps. So generally I'll take off from anywhere from maybe 6 to 12 strides, depending on what point of the season it is, then finish off with a few plyometric exercises. But yeah, each session really will depend on what part of the season I'm in and what sort of, I guess, training phase I'm in as well. But some of the other sessions I have a key speed session where, depending on what part of the season it is again, I'll do some really short, sharp accelerations, or if it's off season, I'll do a bit more of like a speed endurance type session, so some longer reps, nothing probably over 150 or 150 meters, so nothing too crazy. And then my third track session's generally a plyometric specific session, so occasionally we'll do some more run-ups in that session, and then just a lot of plyometric exercises, so the legs are pretty cooked by the end of a plyometric session. But there's a lot of variety in it, which is what I really enjoy. You're not doing the same thing every session. It's definitely, there's definitely variety there, and alongside the sessions that I do outside of the track, there's plenty of variation, and I think that's why I've been able to keep doing it for the long haul.
Pulling it all together under the pressure of an event is obviously tough. Have you ever had a session where you think, wow, I've just got a world record and no one's here to see it? Well,
it's actually interesting because a lot of the time I don't actually jump off a full run-up in training. And when I do, I jump terribly off a full run-up. So it's kind of the opposite. But I think it's just because you don't have the atmosphere around, you haven't tapered for the session. There's a lot of factors that come into play, but definitely can't say I've set a world record in training.
Well, you can. We'll believe you.
Yeah, I should claim it actually. But yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people would probably assume that I come off a long run up and just jump all the time. But I think as I'm getting older as well, I'm having to cut that overall volume back as well. So quality over quantity.
So amongst all this training, what has your life for, say, the last 10 years looked like? Is it a full-time athlete life? What's your week to week been?
Yeah, so early on I was a full-time athlete, but I found I needed to have something else on the side just to provide that nice balance. I found that if I was just doing athletics, there was so much time for my body just to, I don't know, I think more so like my brain just to overthink everything, overanalyze everything. You just sort of become a bit fixated around the one thing. So I had a few retail jobs early on, which I really struggled with. I think just spending a lot of time on my feet, but also I just don't think it was the right environment for me to work in. And then decided that I wanted to be a full-time athlete again. I think being a little bit older, I was able to really utilize a lot of the services around me, and definitely didn't have as much time to be able to sit around thinking. Once I moved out of home, there was plenty of other things I could be doing to occupy my time. But most recently, I have started doing a little bit of work on the side. I do a little bit of work for the Victorian Institute of Sport, so they have a speaking program called Be Fit, Be Well. So I'll go out to primary or secondary schools and speak to the kids about my journey in sport and, I guess touch on some key topics like resilience and, and those sort of things. So that's really rewarding. I really enjoy that side of things and seeing how much of a positive impact it can have on young kids. And I recently just started a part-time job as a admin assistant, so doing a little bit of work at the moment. I've found that just having something else on the side is what I need, particularly when things aren't going well in athletics, because it's really easy to get into a mindset where your self-worth is tied to your athletics performance, and whatever the tape measures is, determines how worthy you are. And I really found that to be pretty disheartening. So I think having a bit of work on the side is something that I think is really important.
Yeah, it's such a unique lifestyle, isn't it? Being an athlete, like it must have its real highs and its real lows.
Yeah, it definitely does. As I said, when things are going well and all the hard work pays off with some success and good results, it's such an incredible feeling. It's like nothing else you'll feel. You honestly just feel on top of the world. And, I've had plenty of moments where I have felt that way, but there's also been a lot of moments where I've felt the complete opposite. I've been at rock bottom. I've been injured. I've been struggling with my health. I've had mental health struggles, and I'm so grateful for the support that I have around me, though. If I didn't have a supportive husband, some great friends, a very supportive family, and my support network as well, and the Victorian Institute of Sport, who predominantly make up my team, I don't think I'd be doing this sport at the moment. So it's been so refreshing, I guess, taking a little break at the moment from, I guess, just being a professional athlete, and really just, I guess, working on myself and just finding joy in different avenues in my life, because I think, as I said, was just really fixated around chasing success for so long, and it definitely wasn't a healthy mindset.
Yeah. And how many events do you compete in? Obviously, the Olympics comes around once every 4 years. That's when everyone's talking about you and where it's all nice and shiny, but there's not a lot of coverage in between then. So how often are you getting to get out there and actually seek that reward?
On a typical year, I'd probably say I'd compete in maybe 15 competitions. So we have our domestic season here in Australia, where maybe I'll compete in 6 different events. And then overseas, it really just depends, I guess, what's on offer, what events you can get into, what sort of fits within your schedule, with the major championships around as well. So there isn't a heap of competition going on. I mean, there's so many competitions out there that you could compete basically every weekend throughout the year, or even some weekdays, but you also need to ensure that you're getting enough training done outside of competitions. But I think athletics in Australia doesn't get the attention and limelight and interest that it should, because there's so many incredible athletes that are doing such fantastic things at the moment. And we saw it in Paris. We had our best result from an Australian track and field team ever. So it just goes to show that there's so many athletes doing such incredible things at the moment, and they deserve to have, the same attention and same interest from the sporting community.
Does it frustrate you that it comes around once every 4 years? Like, I'm probably just as bad as everyone else because I've got you on just after the Olympics, but the coverage is so little. I guess you get a little bit of a peak for Commonwealth Games as well, but it must be annoying when you're putting in the same amount of work 4 years straight, and then once every now and then people seem to care for 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when things don't go that well at an Olympic Games, you then have to wait another 4 years for an opportunity to hopefully get yourself there again. But I think in athletics, obviously the World Championships is the same level as an Olympic Games, but it definitely doesn't have the same interest. from the athletics community that an Olympic Games does. But it's so nice, even just to feel this support that you feel in an Olympic year, even if it's every 4 years. It's such a special feeling, and it's so nice to know that you do have so many people out there who support you and care about you, and know that, you know, they'll be proud regardless of the result. I mean, I competed pretty poorly in Paris and in terms of distance that I jumped, but I guess like everyone that was watching didn't really seem too fazed by it. So it's just nice. It's a refreshing feeling knowing that, you know, people are proud of you regardless of what distance you're jumping.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've had a lot of success at the Commonwealth Games, so 2 silvers there. How have you found those experiences compared to the Olympics?
Definitely Commonwealth Games obviously doesn't have the same depth as an Olympic Games or World Championships, but in saying that, the women's long jump is one of those events in athletics that has quite a lot of depth. So yeah, to come second in Birmingham in 2022, like that was an incredible achievement coming off knee surgery, but to jump 6 meters 95 and win a silver medal was pretty crazy. I feel like I got a little bit unlucky there, having had someone that jumped further, but apparently that result would have won every single Commonwealth Games in history, I think, except for 1 Games. So yeah, that was a bittersweet moment, but you know, the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games again won a silver medal, and being able to share that one with, I guess, the whole of Australia, really, having so many Aussies in the crowd supporting, cheering, having so many close friends and family that just had to really catch a flight to Gold Coast to be there to support me. It was a really cool experience, that one, and there's nothing quite like a home games, being in your home country. So I was obviously very content with those results. It's just a shame that I don't know if there's going to be one going ahead in another couple of years' time, because it would have been really cool to have hopefully gone for a gold medal there.
Yeah, it's funny. I've seen a few people post videos of their medals having tarnished and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Have yours held together?
No. Oh, my Birmingham one seems pretty good, but my Gold Coast one, yeah, no good. It's definitely, it looks more of a bronze colour than a silver colour, if anything. So, yeah, there's a lot of discoloration going on there.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a bit unfortunate. Like, generally when I go to speak at schools, I'll take my medals with me, but I've stopped taking that one because it just looks, it doesn't look very nice.
They don't believe it's silver.
Yeah.
And so next step for you, obviously, the Olympics are another 4 years away.
Yeah.
Are they in your sights?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I turned 31 this year, so I'm not exactly a spring chicken. So I'm definitely, you know, approaching the end of my career. I don't want age to be a factor of whether I continue on or not, because if my body allows me to keep going, of course I'm going to jump at that opportunity. But yeah, I don't really know sort of what the immediate future holds. I definitely need to take a break just from the competitive side of things. You know, mental health has been pretty rough the last couple of seasons, and I think my body's just been crying out for a break, and I didn't really acknowledge that until I guess post Paris, when I finally was able just to seize training, and I guess training with intent and structured training. That was sort of the moment that I realised that I really needed to take a break a lot sooner than what I did. So yeah, not really too sure how next season's going to look. I'm pretty keen just to potentially have the year off and then look at coming back in 2026. But yeah, I guess we'll just wait and see. I think I don't want to make any decisions now around, you know, the next year. I think just, see how my body feels and how the mind feels, and then make the call when the time's right.
All that pressure that weighs on you, is that, do you think, because of the heightened importance of an Olympics, or is it just naturally what comes with being a professional athlete?
I think it's naturally what comes with being a professional athlete. I feel like we're so wired to just go all the time, and once one major championship's over with, you're already looking at preparing for the next and focusing on the next big goal. So it's I think it's just, that perfectionist mindset as well. We just want to be the best athletes we can be, and we're also driven and committed to our own individual sports, and we're just we're a different breed. We're just, I don't know, I think it's just in our nature and in our personalities to just want to keep going and going and going.
Have you looked at what life will be like post-career at all? Have you thought, wow, I'm going to stop running, stop jumping, and do you think that's going to be an interesting time?
A little bit. I feel like after Paris, I've kind of found it a little bit hard to navigate what this next little period is going to look like. My husband Nathan and I, we really want to start a family at some point as well, so that's something that has to be factored in, and whether that happens within the next year or two, that's sort of the priority at the moment. And beyond that, as I said, I guess I'll figure that out with time. But I just started doing a part-time job, so I think that'll be a nice little balance between now and then. But definitely doing exercise still. I'm still going to maintain fitness, and I absolutely, I'm super passionate about health and fitness, and I was brought up with two parents that were right into it as well, and my siblings are all very active, so and my husband as well, so it's not something that I would just completely seize. I don't think that's in my nature, but I'm really excited for this next sort of chapter. But I definitely think a fourth Olympics could be on the cards.
And have you got tattoos to,
I do.
Everyone seems to get the rings.
I do. So this is my tattoo here. Not sure if you can see it. So I got the rings, and then Rio, Tokyo, Paris written underneath.
How quickly did Paris get added?
Paris got added, I reckon, about 3 weeks. Maybe 3.5 weeks after I competed.
Pretty
potentially
fresh.
Even a month. Hang on, what's the date today?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
It would have been probably 3 weeks. Once I got back from holidays, I was pretty quick to get to a tattoo parlor.
So there's a bit of space left on the arm, a few more Olympics in you.
Well, maybe I look to Brisbane 2032.
2032. And does everyone, is it pretty common to get the rings?
It's kind of a mixed bag. Some athletes are super keen on it. Other athletes might prefer to get some jewelry, like a necklace or a ring. I was pretty keen on the tattoo. I said to my parents from a young age, if I make an Olympics, I'm going to get the Olympic rings. That was sort of the only tattoo I've ever been interested in getting. So
did that conversation go all right with them?
Yeah, they were pretty. They were okay with it. Yeah.
And so now you're switching off from sport a little bit. Do you watch other sports?
Yeah. So I'm trying to sort of disassociate myself a little bit from sport at the moment, just because I think because I'm sort of transitioning away from being involved in it at the moment. I think it's probably the right thing just to, I guess, take a little bit of a break from being around it. So still obviously loving football, and that's probably the only sport I watch, to be honest. Hang on, let me think. I did tune into the Paralympics. I really enjoyed getting behind the Aussie athletes competing over there. But my sister plays AFLW, so I'll keep a close eye on how her team's going. I'll get down and support her where I can. Just been doing some park runs actually, which I've I've been loving. So yeah, I think just getting out and going for a run every now and again has been really enjoyable. And I think just having no sort of pressure or expectations, it's been a refreshing thing. And also just, I think the social side of, getting involved in park runs and going for runs with friends, it's just been a really nice change.
I don't know how strict your diet has to be when you're a professional athlete. Do you get the chance to just let loose a little bit and enjoy yourself?
Yeah.
A bit of reward?
Yeah. There's definitely no strict diet happening at the moment except for being gluten-free with celiac. So I'm obviously very strict with that side of things. But yeah, I follow a pretty balanced diet anyway. So I don't restrict myself from eating certain food groups. Just enjoying just being a little bit more lenient with that side of things as well, and just enjoying life, really. Not that you can't when you're a professional athlete, but I feel like, now that I've sort of stepped away from it for the time being, it's just almost been like a little weight off my shoulders, and I've just really been able to just live in the moment a little bit more and shut my brain off from overthinking, overanalyzing, and just getting really caught up in that side of things.
Has being celiac been hard to impact what you need in your body to fuel you as an athlete?
Yeah, it's been pretty difficult, to be honest, and I think that's part of the reason why I've struggled a fair bit being a professional athlete as well, particularly when traveling. Being at home, being able to prepare my own meals, living in Australia, there's a lot of gluten-free options here. Some countries, it's really hard to come by them, and when you do come by gluten-free food, you don't know if it's 100% safe from cross-contamination. So that's sort of a factor in itself that has to be considered. But yeah, I manage as best as I can when traveling, but it has been really hard. And I think for me, it's just another stress on the side and something else that makes me feel a little bit anxious, I guess, alongside being an athlete and, being at a competition hotel when you've got to compete. And yeah, it's manageable, but it's hard.
Yeah, for sure. How many nights a year do you spend in a hotel, do you think?
Too many.
There's a lot of travel required.
Yeah, not so much this year, but last year I spent a lot of time overseas. I think I was in Europe for 2 months, which is the longest stint I've ever done. I purposely don't spend a lot of time overseas because I'm a homebody. I love being at home. I love being in routine. I love having all the support around me that I need when I'm back home. And also it's just easy being celiac as well. I've also got another autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's disease, which is a thyroid condition. So I have to get regular blood tests just to make sure my thyroid's at a stable level. So that's another thing that has to be considered in, I guess, the overall realm of things. So yeah, it hasn't been an easy journey, but it's been very rewarding and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, it's been great to watch. I've loved chatting and learning a little bit more about it and really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the chat.